Welcome to Navy Exclusive, your inside source for tactical breakdowns. What if I told you the ultimate shield was just defeated by a weapon that was never designed to fight? Today we will uncover exactly how a simulated target became a mechanical assassin. We are breaking down the chaotic airspace of the Middle East. We will reveal the secret electronic warfare tactics, and the exact moment a drone swarm almost broke the grid. It was 6 in the morning over the Red Sea when the silence was suddenly shattered. A massive SM-3 missile ripped through the sky from the deck of the USS Carney, climbing with terrifying speed. It pierced and crushed a ballistic missile at the edge of space with a violent kinetic impact. It reduced everything to dust in a single microsecond without any fire. But down in the Combat Information Center, the radar screen did not go dark. The real threat to the fleet was just beginning to unfold. 3 SM-2 missiles continued to spew bright orange flames as they plunged toward the sea. They were tearing apart a massive swarm of incoming drones. The drones dissolved into a sudden shower of burning debris close to the waves. But as soon as one drone was shot down, 2 more arrived to take its place. The enemy was using cheap plastic waste to drain our expensive ammunition stockpile. The U.S. Navy was burning millions of dollars in mere seconds. They had to hold the defensive line against the relentless mechanical swarm. The real devastating blow was still lurking thousands of miles away, waiting for the golden hour to strike. 170 Shahed 136 drones were screaming blindly across the horizon. These suicide drones are essentially a lawnmower engine bolted to a cheap plastic wing. They carry a heavy 100-pound bomb in the nose, making them incredibly cheap to produce in massive numbers. Their slow speed makes them deliberately hard for advanced radars to quickly categorize. This created a unique and dangerous tactical problem for our fleet. Over the dark desert of Jordan, an F-15E Strike Eagle pulled alongside a Shahed 136. The 20mm Gatling gun on the side of the jet opened up. It was a furious 3-second burst, sending 60 rounds of heavy metal to shred the plastic wing of the drone. The drone flipped over, stalled in the night air, and slammed violently into the desert sand. The U.S. military was using cheap bullets to save their expensive missiles. They needed to keep the big interceptors for exactly what was coming next. But then the first major plot twist hit the combat space. The drones began to dynamically swarm instead of flying a simple straight line. These specific Shahed 136 units started communicating and sharing flight data in real time. When one drone was shot down, the others instantly shifted their formation to adapt to the threat. They began a complex maneuver called terrain masking, dropping dangerously low to the ground. They flew through narrow canyons and dipped behind rolling hills to stay perfectly hidden from the powerful ship radars. Suddenly, the U.S. radar operators lost 20 targets all at once. Their blips completely vanished from the glowing screens. They went dark because they were hiding in the natural shadows of the Earth. They were using the rough geography as a physical shield. The U.S. forces responded with the advanced AIM-9X Sidewinder missile. This incredibly smart heat seeker looks for the hot exhaust of the drone engine instead of relying on radar. A Sidewinder executed a sharp 90-degree turn in mid-air, diving straight down into a dark canyon. One more drone was brilliant white flash, but 140 remained in the sky. Then came the second massive plot twist of the chaotic night. 5 of the incoming drones were actually recording the unfolding battle. Every time a U.S. radar painted a drone to track it, they recorded the specific signal of the U.S. Aegis combat system. They were actively mapping the entire U.S. defense grid in real time. They were taking our electronic fingerprints and beaming that precious data straight back to Iran. While the U.S. was busy swatting at the cheap plastic mosquitoes, the real sledgehammers launched from deep inside heavily guarded Iranian territory. These were the massive Emad and Ghadr ballistic missiles. The U.S. Navy destroyers saw the launch sequence immediately. Their Spy-1 radar systems locked onto the intense heat signatures. The USS Arleigh, Burke, and USS Carney tracked the massive rockets as they quickly cleared the Earth atmosphere. The threat had instantly escalated from slow drones to hypersonic space weapons, putting incredible strain on the defense grid. The vertical launch system on the deck of the destroyer exploded into action. 4 SM-3 interceptors tore violently out of their metal tubes. The SM-3 defeats the target with sheer, unstoppable kinetic energy instead of a traditional explosive warhead. It is a 20-pound block of solid metal. It hits a 1,000-pound incoming missile at a combined speed of 15,000 miles per hour. The first SM-3 hit an Emad missile exactly 60 miles above the Earth. It turned the massive Iranian telephone pole into glowing gas. The second and third interceptors also found their marks perfectly in the cold vacuum of space. They briefly illuminated the dark sky with silent kinetic collisions. But then the third plot twist arrived to severely complicate the battle. as the Iranian Emad missiles began their final terrifying dive back into the atmosphere. They released a cluster of highly sophisticated decoys. On the U.S. radar screens, one incoming missile suddenly turned into 10 specialized balloons. They were perfectly shaped like real missiles and covered in highly reflective metallic paint to trick the radars. The U.S. defensive shield was actively overwhelmed by false metallic targets. This forced combat computers to make critical decisions in less than a millisecond. The fourth plot twist followed almost instantly. Iran had perfectly timed the ballistic missile arrival to happen at the exact moment the drone swarm reached the ships. The U.S. Navy was forced to fight two wars simultaneously. They fought a low and slow war against cheap plastic drones, and a high and fast war against space-falling ballistic missiles. The Aegis combat system was stretched to its absolute breaking point. One Ghadr missile managed to slip completely through the upper defensive shield. It successfully bypassed the SM-3 interceptors high in space. It began its terminal high-speed dive toward an Israeli airbase. It was moving far too fast for a normal defense missile to ever catch. This is exactly where the incredible SM-6 missile came into play as the absolute last line of naval defense. It launched violently from the deck of the USS Carney. It stayed very low to the water to gain massive forward speed before pulling an aggressive vertical climb. The SM-6 met the Ghadr missile just 5 miles above the ground in a violently loud kinetic collision. It was reportedly heard clearly in 3 different countries. Thousands of pounds of jagged burning steel fell like rain over the dark desert. The US and its allies successfully. Iran firmly believed they had found the mathematical limit of our shield based on drone data. Deep inside central Iran, their ultimate insurance policy waited. It was the highly dangerous S-300 PMU-2 surface-to-air missile system, designed to protect the highly secretive Natanz nuclear facility. The S-300 PMU-2 turns a 100-mile radius into a complete no-fly zone. It acts like a professional sniper who can see perfectly in the dark and almost never misses its assigned target. Energized by their drone attack, the Iranian radar crews confidently turned their powerful radars up to maximum output power. But the massive Big Bird radar was putting out entirely too much electromagnetic energy. It was radiating so brightly that it could be easily seen by military satellites. It was exactly like a person standing in a pitch-black forest. They were holding a giant blazing spotlight pointing directly at the night sky. The S-300 system is incredibly smart, but it is deeply arrogant. It is hard-coded to ignore anything moving slower than 100 miles per hour to prevent screen clutter. While the Iranian S-300 screamed its exact location, a U.S. Navy EA-18G Growler and an Air Force RC-135 rivet joint were quietly loitering just outside Iranian airspace. They were actively swallowing every single bit of electronic data. The rivet joint flawlessly captured the secret handshake code the radar used to talk to its missiles. They completely understood its digital heartbeat. Then, the U.S. military actively engineered a brilliant, highly targeted gap themselves using invisible warfare. The EA-18G Growler sent a very quiet electronic signal perfectly designed to look exactly like normal background clutter. To the Iranian radar operators sitting in Isfahan, it just looked like a minor glitch causing dirty screens. They made a fatal decision to perform a routine manual system reset to clear the visual clutter. A complete system reset on an S-300 PMU-2 takes exactly 180 seconds. This created an absolute golden moment. While Iran relied on an overlapping network of defensive radar sites, the U.S. war planners had anticipated this. The RC-135 rivet joint quietly executed a highly sophisticated cyberburst. It was designed to utterly confuse the land-based fiber optic cables connecting the Iranian radar sites. In the middle of this crucial 3-minute blackout, an Israeli F-15 Baz flying over Iraq released the massive 15-foot-long Blue Sparrow. The Blue Sparrow is a literal Trojan horse. It is designed to fly high at the absolute edge of space before diving aggressively down at its assigned target. As it crossed silently into Iranian airspace, the 180-second golden clock was rapidly ticking down. The Israeli jet was actively receiving a highly secure live feed from a U.S. Navy E-2D Hawkeye command plane circling safely away. The Hawkeye was observing every single desperate move the panicked Iranian defenses made as the Blue Sparrow dropped through the thin air. After its solid-fuel rocket motor violently ignited, the Blue Sparrow climbed smoothly into the near-space vacuum. This is where most enemy radars are not looking. As it officially crossed the Iranian border, it suddenly and violently broke apart in mid-air. The large outer shell split cleanly into 4. It revealed the highly classified Rock standoff missile inside, while the Blue Sparrow provided the long ride across the border. The much smaller and more dangerous Rock's missile provided the lethal precision needed to act as the absolute tactical scalpel. The discarded outer skin pieces were intentionally equipped with corner reflectors. These are designed to bounce radar signals back with massive, overwhelming intensity. To any flickering Iranian radar, it literally looked like 4 massive B-52 bombers were suddenly diving straight toward Isfahan. The Iranian computer systems completely ignored the tiny, stealthy Rox missile. They focused all remaining radar energy on the massive giants that did not exist. While the Iranians frantically chased digital ghosts in the sky, the Rox missile began its highly lethal terminal dive at an incredible 2,000 miles per hour. Back at the heavily guarded Isfahan airbase, the golden moment was officially over. The massive Big Bird radar dish aggressively spun once again. They quickly prepared to fire their heavy interceptor missiles at the large ghosts on their screens. Hundreds of miles away, a U.S. Navy EA-18G Growler detected the radar wake-up sequence and instantly performed cyber masking. It digitally changed the data inside the powerful Iranian radar pulse and beamed it straight back. This filled their glowing screens with useless digital noise and thousands of fake incoming targets. The U.S. Navy did not have to fire a single kinetic shot to blindfold the radar using complex math and radio waves. Underneath all of this frantic electronic chaos, the Rox missile closed the final mile. It aimed precisely for the 36N6E Tombstone radar panel. Impacting at a blistering Mach 3, the sheer kinetic energy instantly disintegrated the highly expensive radar panel into a cloud of sharp, burning shrapnel. A massive secondary explosion hit the base, fiercely igniting the diesel fuel and complex electronics inside the shattered transport truck. In one single second, Israel and the U.S. had successfully turned Iran's most powerful air defense into a useless corpse. When a nearby Iranian commander frantically ordered a retaliatory ripple fire, absolutely nothing happened. The Growler was actively freezing their digital communication networks, while the Iranian military tried to reboot their radios. U.S. military satellites and B-2 Spirit stealth bombers were already quietly loitering just outside the newly created no-fly zone. The dark bombers delivered a clear strategic message that the front door was now kicked completely wide open. Before we wrap up this tactical breakdown, there is one final detail about the Blue Sparrow that completely changes how you see this engagement. It was never originally built to be a weapon of actual war, but strictly a simple practice target. For 20 long years, its only job was to perfectly act like an incoming Iranian ballistic missile during routine practice drills. The ultimate Iranian defensive shield was completely defeated by a glorified clay pigeon that literally turned into a deadly cruise missile. The era of impenetrable airspace is officially over. If you got value from this video, smash that like button, it really helps the channel. And subscribe to Navy Exclusive for more deep dives like this. Hit the bell so you never miss an analysis when it drops. Thanks for watching. If you found this video valuable, please like and subscribe to Navy Exclusive for more content.